Welcome to my colleague Agnes Thompson's channel. My name is Marion. I will share my man with you. Subscribe to us.
The sterile hum of the fluorescent lights in the First National Bank branch seemed to vibrate with a cruel dissonance against the burgeoning chaos within my heart. I, Marion Hayes, a woman who had lived 75 years by the unwavering principles of diligence and foresight, sat rigidly in the plush, yet suddenly suffocating, visitor's chair. My gaze, usually clear and discerning, felt unfocused, distant, as I stared blankly at the impeccably manicured hands of Mr. Davies, the young bank manager. He fidgeted with a pen, his eyes, usually so confident, darting nervously between his glowing screen and my face, a carefully constructed mask of polite, professional pity that did little to conceal the grim news he was about to deliver. "Mrs. Hayes," he began, his voice barely audible above the low, reassuring murmur of the bustling bank lobby, "I'm truly sorry to have to tell you this, but your primary checking and savings accounts, they are both at a zero balance. Completely depleted." The words, though spoken softly, resonated with the deafening clang of a funeral bell in the echoing chambers of my mind. Zero balance? It was not merely impossible. It was a cosmic joke, a cruel jest played by an indifferent universe. My mind, usually a well-organized filing cabinet of financial facts and figures, a testament to decades of meticulous record-keeping, scrambled, frantically searching for any shred of logical explanation. This wasn't a trivial sum. This was the painstakingly accumulated sum of my entire life's work, the financial cushion meticulously woven from decades of a modest but steady teacher's salary, coupled with Arthur's life insurance and his small, carefully managed pension. It was more than money. It was my safeguard against the daunting uncertainties of old age, my last bastion of independence, my dignity in a world that, all too often, disregarded and discarded its elders. My hands, gnarled slightly by the early stages of arthritis, clasped together so tightly that the prominent veins beneath the thin skin stood out like blue rivers, and my knuckles gleamed bone-white, reflecting the harsh overhead lights. My first thought, an involuntary, desperate gasp of hope, was of a simple clerical error, a temporary glitch in the vast, impersonal machinery of the banking system, easily rectified with a polite word and a signature. "There must be some mistake, Mr. Davies," I heard myself say, my voice a thin, reedy whisper that hardly sounded like my own, distant and disembodied. "I track my finances diligently, to the penny. I have carefully nurtured investments, a significant savings account for emergencies. This cannot be." Mr. Davies, sensing the profound distress radiating from my very core, pushed a sleek, silver tablet across the polished desk. Its screen, usually a portal to digital convenience, now displayed a cold, sterile, and utterly damning ledger of transactions. Each line, a meticulously dated record, scrolled down, revealing a systematic dismantling of my financial security. "I assure you, Mrs. Hayes, we've double-checked every entry, every transfer, every withdrawal. The transactions, they span the last 6 months. All appear to be authorized, primarily through online transfers to an external account, and some larger cash withdrawals, all bearing signatures that match your file." My eyes, despite the blurring disbelief and the prickle of tears that threatened to form, fixated on a recurring detail, a name, appearing again and again, with chilling consistency. Sarah Jenkins. My daughter. My only child, the one I had nurtured, sacrificed for, and loved unconditionally since the day she was born. Sarah Louise Jenkins, née Hayes. The name, once a source of boundless pride and overwhelming affection, now burned like acid in my vision, scarring my very soul. A vivid, almost cinematic memory of her last visit, just 2 days prior, flashed through my mind with agonizing clarity. She had arrived with a small, ostentatiously expensive bouquet of exotic flowers and her usual torrent of carefully rehearsed complaints about her perpetual financial struggles, the astronomical cost of her children's elite private school, the endless, escalating renovations on her sprawling suburban home, the relentless pressure to keep up with the affluent Joneses in her new, exclusive neighborhood. She had even casually mentioned a fantastic, limited-time investment opportunity that required quick access to significant funds, hinting broadly that I could help out with a small loan if I wanted to see my beloved grandchildren thrive and secure their future. I, in my boundless, trusting naivete, had readily agreed to look into what I could manage, never once, in my wildest nightmares, imagining that she had already managed it all for herself, without my consent, without my knowledge, and certainly without my blessing. A cold, creeping realization, far more profound and devastating than the initial shock, began to spread through me, chilling me to the very marrow of my bones. Sarah had, with insistent and seemingly loving overtures, taken over managing my finances a mere 6 months ago. It was during my worst arthritis flare-up, a period when even holding a pen for more than a few minutes was agony, when paperwork became an unbearable burden. "Mom," she'd cooed, her voice dripping with feigned concern and maternal devotion, "you've worked your whole life. You've done enough. Let me handle the boring stuff, the bills, the investments. You deserve to relax, to finally enjoy your golden years. I'll make sure everything is perfect. You won't have to lift a finger." I had readily agreed, grateful for her apparent thoughtfulness, seeing it as a selfless, loving gesture, a devoted daughter taking compassionate care of her aging mother. How terribly, irrevocably wrong I had been. "These specific transactions, Mrs. Hayes," Mr. Davies continued, his voice droning on, oblivious to the seismic, cataclysmic shift occurring within my very being, "they appear to be linked directly to a business account, registered to a Sarah's Chic Boutique LLC. The dates align perfectly with the recent opening of a new fashion store downtown. A boutique. So that was the ultimate destination of my life's savings. The lavish parties she'd been posting about incessantly on social media, the endless parade of expensive new designer handbags and exquisite outfits, the constant, self-congratulatory talk of launching her dream and building an empire, all of it. Every single superficial detail had been meticulously funded by my stolen future, by the very essence of my financial security. The sheer, unadulterated injustice of it was a physical blow, leaving me breathless, gasping for air in the sterile confines of the bank. I rose slowly, my legs feeling like brittle, ancient twigs, threatening to buckle beneath me. Somehow, through a haze of shock and nascent fury, I navigated my way out of the bank, the bustling financial district now a blur of indifferent faces, rushing past me like specters in a nightmare. The familiar cityscape, usually a comforting and vibrant backdrop to my independent, peaceful life, suddenly felt cold, alien and menacing, its towering buildings mocking my sudden vulnerability. I walked aimlessly, a zombie adrift in a vast sea of living, breathing, oblivious people, the words "empty" and "Sarah's Chic Boutique" echoing like a cruel, mocking refrain in the hollow, aching chamber of my chest. I eventually found myself on a lone park bench, nestled beneath the sprawling branches of an old oak tree, its leaves a vibrant tapestry of autumn colors. The beauty that once brought me gentle solace now seemed to mock me, each falling leaf a stark, poignant metaphor for my rapidly diminishing years and my vanishing security, my entire life's foundation disintegrating around me. My phone buzzed, vibrating insistently in my trembling hand, pulling me from the depths of my despair. "Sarah." The irony was so overwhelmingly bitter it almost made me laugh aloud, a harsh, humorless sound that would have terrified any passerby. How dare she call after what she'd done? After she had systematically dismantled my life, piece by piece? I stared at the caller ID, a macabre fascination taking hold, a morbid curiosity to hear the voice of the architect of my ruin. I answered, my voice, to my own surprise, remarkably steady, devoid of the tremor that shook my hands. "Mom, everything all right? You sound a little off. Rough night, perhaps?" Her voice was saccharine sweet, dripping with a feigned innocence so practiced, so utterly devoid of genuine concern, it was nauseating. It was the voice of a predator masquerading as a dove. "Sarah," I began, my voice hardening with an almost imperceptible edge, a new, steely resolve forming deep within me. "I was just at the bank." The First National. I had a conversation with Mr. Davies. There was a perceptible pause on her end, a microsecond of hesitation, a flicker of nervous recognition, before she recovered with the practiced ease of a seasoned con artist. Oh? And how is that, Mom? Everything in order? Did Mr. Davies help you with that new savings bond you were asking about? You know, the one with the high interest rates. Her feigned cheerfulness, her deliberate attempt to misdirect and control the narrative, was like a physical punch, leaving me breathless with a renewed wave of outrage. No, Sarah. Nothing is in order. My accounts are empty. Completely. Utterly. Zero balance. Every last penny. The savings you were supposed to manage, the investments you swore to protect, all gone. Another, longer, more telling silence stretched between us, thick with unspoken guilt. Then a sharp, nervous little laugh, brittle as shattered glass, escaped her lips. Empty? Oh, Mom, you must be mistaken. You know how you are with numbers. You probably just misread something, or perhaps there was a temporary technical hold, these banks, you know. Or maybe you've been a little overly generous with your spending lately. You know, those online shopping sprees you get into? All those antique dolls and porcelain figurines you buy, always shipping new things to the house. The sheer audacity, the immediate, almost instinctive pivot to blame and gaslighting was breathtaking in its cruelty. My spending sprees? I, Marion Hayes, who meticulously balanced her checkbook to the penny, who drove a 20-year-old reliable, if slightly dented, sedan, who mended her clothes until they were threadbare and composted every scrap of food, was suddenly a spender, a tarnisher of funds, a collector of unnecessary trinkets. This wasn't just theft, it was a deliberate, malicious attempt to assassinate my character, to brand me as senile, irresponsible, and utterly incompetent in the eyes of anyone who would listen, particularly those who mattered in our close-knit community. Sarah, I stated, my voice now laced with an icy, controlled calm that surprised even me, a newfound power resonating through each word. I have meticulous records. Decades of them, spanning my entire working life. And the bank has even more. Every single transaction, every date, every recipient. There's no mistake. Every cent is gone, and every single transaction leads directly to you and your boutique. There is no amount of gaslighting or blame shifting that will change that undeniable fact. Her tone shifted abruptly, abandoning the flimsy pretense of concern for one of condescending irritation and barely concealed contempt. Look, Mom, if you're going to accuse me of something so utterly ridiculous, something so utterly baseless, then I simply don't have time for this nonsense. I'm a busy woman, launching my business, trying to make a life for myself, a life that you, frankly, don't understand. And quite frankly, you've always been a bit forgetful lately, prone to flights of fancy. Maybe it's truly time you accepted that you're getting old and simply can't manage things like you used to. Perhaps a nice, comfortable retirement community would be better for you, where others can take care of all the messy details. The words were calculated, precise, designed to sting, to diminish me, to make me doubt my own sanity and capabilities, to drive me into a corner of helpless resignation. But instead of breaking me, instead of reducing me to tears, they ignited a fierce, unyielding spark, a burning ember of defiant fury deep within my soul. It was a fire that had been dormant for too long, now roaring to life with an almost terrifying intensity. Forgetful, I retorted, my voice now carrying a surprising, unwavering strength, a steel core emerging from beneath the gentle exterior. I remember every single penny I earned, every sacrifice Arthur and I made for our future, for your future, and for the security of our family. And I remember, with crystal clarity, every cent you just stole, every lie you just uttered. And I will make sure everyone else remembers it too. The truth, Sarah, has a way of being heard, even when those who wish to silence it try their hardest. There was a sharp, final click. She had hung up. Just like that. The phone felt heavy and cold in my hand, a useless piece of technology, a symbol of the broken trust, the severed bond that once tied me, irrevocably, to my only child. I sat there on the park bench, the autumn leaves continuing their silent, relentless descent around me, each one a poignant reminder of transient beauty and inescapable loss. The initial shock had fully receded, leaving behind not despair, but a quiet, simmering, and absolutely determined rage. Not just for the devastating financial ruin, but for the profound personal betrayal, the utter lack of conscience, and the brazen public humiliation she was so casually orchestrating by labeling me a spender, a burden, a woman past her prime. This wasn't just about my retirement. It was about my reputation, my dignity, my entire life's legacy, the values I had instilled, now trampled underfoot by avarice. I closed my eyes, picturing Arthur, his gentle, knowing smile, his unwavering integrity, his steadfast belief in my strength, my spirit. He would not have tolerated this. And neither, I realized with a profound sense of clarity, would I. A cold, unyielding resolve settled over me, hardening into an impenetrable shield. Sarah had made a grave, almost fatal, miscalculation. She had underestimated Marion Hayes. She thought she could strip me of everything material and leave me helpless, branded, and discarded. But she had clearly forgotten that a lifetime of quiet perseverance, meticulous planning, unwavering resourcefulness, and a stubborn refusal to be defeated had forged me into something far tougher, far more formidable than she. In her shallow world of designer handbags and superficial social appearances, could ever comprehend. The fight for my money and, more importantly, for my good name, for my very identity, had just begun. Sarah was about to learn that a 75-year-old woman with nothing left to lose, but everything to gain in terms of justice and vindication, is the most dangerous and unpredictable opponent of all. What she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly fathom in her self-absorbed, materialistic world, was that while she was busily emptying my bank account and weaving her deceitful public narrative, I had, perhaps unknowingly, been quietly preparing for a future far beyond her grasp, a future that involved not just financial recovery, but a profound, public reckoning that would echo far beyond the confines of our small town, a truth that would expose her for all to see. She was about to face the true, undeniable consequences of her actions, consequences that would be measured not just in dollars and cents, but in shattered reputations, unforgiving truths, and the crushing weight of public scorn. The following morning, the initial wave of gut-wrenching shock and disbelief had fully receded, leaving behind a crystalline clarity of purpose that felt sharper and more precise than any emotion I had ever known. My anger, rather than consuming me in a destructive blaze, had transformed into a cold, calculated resolve, a steady, unyielding flame. Sarah, in her boundless arrogance, thought she could paint me as a senile, spendthrift old woman, deserving of pity, or worse, dismissal, a fading shadow of my former self. I would show her, and every single person who had so readily believed her malicious whispers and carefully crafted lies, the undeniable, unvarnished truth. My first move, strategically planned in the quiet hours of a sleepless night, wasn't a panicked, desperate phone call to a lawyer. That would come later, when my strategy was more refined, my evidence meticulously gathered. Instead, I reached for my antique rotary phone, its familiar, solid weight comforting in my trembling hand, a tangible link to a more honorable past, and dialed Evelyn's number. Evelyn Montgomery, my dearest friend since our elementary school days, a bond forged in childhood games and cemented by decades of shared laughter and tears, was more than just a confidant. She was the pulsating, vibrant heart of our quiet suburban community's informal information network. If there was a secret, Evelyn knew it, and more importantly, she possessed an uncanny, almost supernatural ability to disseminate information with the subtle grace of a feather falling, yet with the unstoppable, inexorable force of a rising tide. "Evelyn, it's Marion," I began, my voice, though still tinged with the weariness of profound betrayal, held a new, steely edge, an unshakable resolve that surprised even myself. "I need your help. Sarah, she's been spreading quite a tale about my alleged extravagant spending and how I've somehow lost control of my finances, making me out to be a burden, a problem." There was a knowing, pregnant pause on the other end, a telltale sign that Evelyn had indeed heard the insidious rumors and, perhaps, far more than just whispers. "Oh, honey," Evelyn finally responded, her voice soft with genuine sympathy, a rare commodity in this cruel new reality. I'd heard bits and pieces of it. That little boutique she opened on Main Street, Sarah's chic boutique? She's been telling everyone who would listen that it was generously funded by Mom's recent splurge on luxury goods and that you insisted she take over your accounts because you were losing track of your investments and your rather lavish spending habits. She even hosted a truly lavish, grand opening party just last week, invited half the town, complete with champagne and a live jazz band. It was quite the spectacle, Marion, truly over the top for a new small business. My blood ran cold, a deeper, more chilling sensation than the initial shock of the empty bank account. The insidious layers of Sarah's calculated deception were even more extensive, more publicly damaging than I had initially grasped. Not only had she stolen my entire financial security, but she had brazenly weaponized my very character, twisting the truth to justify her unfathomable greed, transforming me into a grotesque caricature of an irresponsible, senile old woman, a public spectacle of my own making. A boutique, a symbol of frivolous luxury, meticulously built on my stolen life savings, a glittering public facade of entrepreneurial success masking a grotesque, unforgivable act of filial betrayal. It was an insult not only to my intelligence, but to my entire life's philosophy of diligent hard work, unwavering fiscal responsibility, and quiet dignity. "Evelyn," I continued, my voice now resonating with a quiet, unshakable conviction, each word a hammer blow against her deceit. "I need you to listen to me very carefully, Evelyn. Sarah didn't just manage my money, she emptied my bank account. Every last cent, every single dollar I had saved for my future, gone. She drained my lifetime savings, leaving me with nothing but air. This boutique is not built on her entrepreneurial spirit, it is built entirely on theft, on lies. I need you to quietly, subtly, but firmly let people know the truth. I am not a spendthrift. I am a victim of egregious, calculated elder abuse. And I will prove it to everyone who doubted me." Evelyn, bless her astute and loyal heart, didn't hesitate for a moment, her voice firm with unwavering solidarity. "Consider it done, Marion. That girl has always been a piece of work, always had that calculating, greedy glint in her eye, but this is a new, despicable low. You can count on me. Don't you worry. People will know the truth. It might take time, like a slow-burning fire, but the truth always finds its way out, no matter how deeply it's buried. And what are you going to do now, my dear? What's your next move?" "I'm going to fight, Evelyn," I replied, a new, unshakable strength entering my voice, solidifying my resolve, transforming me from a bewildered victim into a determined warrior. My next crucial call was to Margaret, retired legal secretary and a dear friend from my teaching days, a woman whose keen intellect I had always admired. Margaret was, in her quiet, unassuming way, sharper than any attorney I knew, possessing an encyclopedic knowledge of legal minutiae, an uncanny ability to navigate bureaucratic labyrinths, and a deep, intuitive understanding of human nature. I laid out the entire devastating narrative for her, every humiliating detail, every shred of Sarah's calculated deceit, the words burning with a fresh, persistent sting as I spoke them aloud. Margaret listened without interruption, her silence punctuated only by the soft click of her pen as she meticulously jotted down notes, her brow furrowed in concentration and growing outrage. "Marion," Margaret finally said, her voice filled with a quiet, controlled outrage that perfectly mirrored my own simmering fury, "this is truly appalling. An egregious act. But you're absolutely not without options. This is a clear-cut case of financial elder abuse, which, I assure you, carries significant legal weight and very severe penalties. First, you must gather every single piece of financial documentation you possess. Old bank statements, investment certificates, tax returns, any correspondence related to your finances, even seemingly insignificant papers can build a comprehensive picture of your lifelong financial prudence and the sudden, suspicious, and systematic depletion of your funds. Every scrap of paper is a piece of the puzzle. Second, we absolutely need to consider immediate legal action. The fact that she was acting as your trusted financial manager makes her actions an even greater breach of fiduciary duty, a profound violation of trust. But Margaret, I interjected, a wave of despair briefly washing over me, a moment of doubt creeping in despite my resolve. She manipulated me into authorizing some of the larger withdrawals. She told me they were for urgent investment reallocations or necessary account restructuring, making them sound incredibly complex and urgent. And for others, she simply forged my signature entirely. How do I prove that I was deceived, or that some of those signatures weren't mine, when the bank says they match my file? Deception itself is a form of fraud, Margaret stated firmly, her voice leaving no room for doubt, her words a lifeline in my drowning despair. If she manipulated you into signing documents under false pretenses, if she used undue influence or misinformation, that is still a crime. As for forged signatures, forensic analysis can often detect even the most skilled forgeries, especially when compared to your genuine signatures over a long period. But critically, did you keep any records of these deceptive conversations? Any texts, emails, voice messages that might hint at her manipulative intent, her scheme? My mind raced, sifting through months of interactions with Sarah, desperately searching for any shred of concrete evidence beyond my word against hers. Sarah was always so careful, so cunning, preferring in-person conversations or fleeting phone calls, deliberately avoiding a digital or paper trail that could incriminate her. She was always one step ahead, or so I thought. But then, a faint memory, a small, seemingly insignificant detail, surfaced from the murky depths of my memory, a tiny spark in the encroaching darkness. Wait, I said, a flicker of genuine hope igniting within me, causing my heart to quicken its pace. There was one time. It was late at night. I was feeling particularly unwell with my arthritis. She sent me a text message several months ago. It was brief, but very insistent. She said something about needing quick access to funds for an urgent investment opportunity and specifically asked me to sign these attached forms quickly without looking too closely and to trust her completely, as time was of the essence. I remember thinking it was odd, the urgency and the demand for blind trust, but I was tired and she rushed me, saying I was delaying a huge profit. Screenshot it, Marion. Immediately. If you still have it on your phone. Margaret's voice was urgent, electric with possibility, a lifeline thrown into a raging sea. That's a digital breadcrumb, a small but potentially crucial piece of evidence of her intent to deceive, to rush you into signing without proper review or understanding. It speaks volumes about her manipulative tactics. I fumbled with my smartphone, its modern complexities usually a source of mild, good-natured frustration, but now it felt like a potential key to my liberation, a hidden weapon. Miraculously, the text message was still there, buried deep in our long conversation history, a tiny, almost forgotten detail. A small, seemingly innocuous message now transformed into a damning piece of digital evidence, a silent witness to her calculated fraud. A tiny thread, but a thread nonetheless, upon which I could begin to unravel her entire elaborate web of lies. I spent the remainder of the day meticulously going through old files, dusty bankers' boxes stored in the dimly lit attic, and even the overflowing, disorganized drawers of my old desk. I unearthed ancient bank books from the 1970s, their pages brittle with age, filled with neat, handwritten entries, handwritten ledgers from the 80s detailing every household expense down to the last penny, investment certificates from the 90s, and meticulously organized tax returns spanning 5 decades. It was an arduous, emotionally draining process, each document a ghost of a past decision, a poignant reminder of the careful, frugal life Arthur and I had built together. But with each paper I discovered, with each irrefutable proof of my lifelong financial prudence, my resolve hardened, crystallizing into an unshakable conviction. These documents were more than just financial records. They were a tangible testament to my integrity, my lifelong diligence, and the bedrock values upon which my life had been built. This was my legacy, my truth, and I could not, allow Sarah to desecrate it with her selfish greed and deceit. Meanwhile, Evelyn, true to her word, was already at work, a silent, unseen force moving through the social fabric of our community. The whisper network of our small town, a formidable entity born of shared histories and intertwined lives, was legendary for its effectiveness, its ability to spread truth and rumor with equal speed. A few days later, I started to notice subtle, yet increasingly significant, shifts in the way people interacted with me. Neighbors who had initially offered me pitying glances or even pointedly avoided eye contact now offered small, knowing smiles, a flicker of understanding and support in their eyes. At the local grocery store, the clerk, who had openly expressed sympathy for poor Sarah and her struggles with her difficult mother, now gave me an extra discount on my organic vegetables and said, with a quiet, intense sincerity, "Don't you worry, Mrs. Hayes." Some people show their true colors eventually, no matter how hard they try to hide them. And truth, like water, always finds a way out. The tide, slowly but perceptibly, was turning. Sarah, in her boundless arrogance and self-absorption, remained seemingly oblivious to these subtle shifts, living in her own insulated bubble of self-importance. She continued to flaunt her new boutique on social media, posting endless, self-aggrandizing photos of her exclusive collections, her grand opening gala, and her successful entrepreneurial journey, all funded, ironically, by my stolen life savings. Her public image, for now, remained untarnished, a glittering, deceptive facade of success. But I knew, with a growing certainty, that the cracks were forming, little by little, beneath the surface of her carefully constructed lies. My meticulous preparation, the gathering of every scrap of evidence, was paying off. I had a growing mountain of incriminating documents, a crucial digital breadcrumb in that single text message, and a steadily expanding groundswell of quiet support within the community. But I needed more. I needed something irrefutable, something that would strike at the very heart of Sarah's carefully constructed world, hitting her not just financially, but reputationally, socially, utterly. Something that would expose her for the calculating, deceitful, and utterly heartless person she truly was, not just to me, but to the entire world she so desperately tried to impress and manipulate. As I meticulously organized my documents into neat, chronological folders, each one a testament to a life well lived, a dusty, leather-bound photo album tucked away in the very back of a forgotten drawer in my antique writing desk, slipped from my grasp and fell open with a soft thud onto the worn Persian rug. Inside, on a faded page, was a photograph of Sarah as a little girl, no more than 5 years old, her chubby cheeks flushed with childish excitement, beaming up at me, proudly clutching a brightly painted piggy bank. "For my future, Mommy," she had declared then, her innocent voice ringing in my memory, a pure, untainted sound. The irony of that image, of her childhood aspirations now twisted into such a bitter, ugly, and reprehensible reality, was a corrosive taste in my mouth. She had stolen that future, not just from me, but in a profound way, from her own pure, innocent past self. But that future wasn't just about money. It was about justice, about truth, about reclaiming what was rightfully mine. And I was just beginning to scratch the surface of how I would achieve it, in a way she could never have anticipated. The next phase of my plan, born from the depths of my despair and fueled by a burning, unwavering desire for vindication, was about to unfold, a strategy far more subtle, more powerful, and ultimately more devastating than Sarah, in her shallow understanding of life's true values, could ever possibly anticipate. She was about to discover that some legacies are not measured in dollars and cents, but in the unwavering strength of a principled spirit, a truth that, once unleashed, could shatter even the most meticulously constructed illusions. The Whisper Network, now a potent force of quiet truth, painstakingly cultivated by Evelyn's subtle yet undeniably effective dissemination of the facts, had begun to chip away at Sarah's meticulously cultivated public image. The murmurs of suspicion, once faint, were growing louder, transforming into a discernible hum of communal unease. But while this growing groundswell of community sympathy and quiet condemnation was comforting, a balm to my wounded spirit, it would not, by itself, restore my depleted life savings. I needed concrete legal recourse, a formidable professional who could skillfully navigate the complex, often unforgiving, legal landscape of financial fraud and elder abuse. But the cruel irony, the bitter twist of fate that seemed designed to mock my every effort, was that pursuing such action required the very financial resources that Sarah had so callously stripped away from me. It was a classic catch-22, a seemingly insurmountable obstacle designed to trap the vulnerable, leaving me feeling utterly powerless. As I sat alone in my quiet living room, the familiar comfort of its worn furnishings now shadowed by the ghosts of a meticulously planned, but now cruelly snatched future, a sudden, almost ethereal memory surfaced from the deepest recesses of my consciousness. It was a fragment of a conversation with Arthur, my beloved late husband, just weeks before his passing. His mind, even in the frail grip of illness, had remained astonishingly sharp, his foresight uncanny, almost prophetic. He had always been a man of meticulous detail, almost to a fault, believing with unwavering conviction in preparing for every conceivable eventuality, especially when it came to safeguarding the well-being and security of his loved ones. I remembered a particular sun-drenched afternoon, sipping lukewarm iced tea on the porch swing, the gentle creak of the chains a soothing counterpoint to his quiet, earnest voice. He had spoken in hushed tones about contingency plans and a special fund, managed entirely externally, for unforeseen circumstances, for a rainy day you never hoped to see. At the time, I had dismissed it as Arthur simply indulging his endearing penchant for exhaustive, almost obsessive planning, a testament to his innate cautiousness. Now, in my profound hour of need, it felt like a desperate, flickering beacon of hope in the suffocating darkness of my despair, a lifeline thrown from the past. I fumbled through my old, leather-bound address book, its pages yellowed and brittle with age, a tangible artifact from a bygone era, until my finger, guided by an unseen force, landed on a familiar name, etched in Arthur's elegant hand. Miss Eleanor Albright, Arthur's longtime attorney. Her reputation for sharp intellect, unwavering integrity, and relentless advocacy for her clients was legendary throughout the region. When I dialed her number, my hand trembled slightly, a complex cocktail of apprehension and a fragile, nascent hope coursing through my veins. Miss Albright's voice, when she answered, was warm yet crisply professional, instantly conveying competence and empathy. "Mrs. Hayes, it's been some time. How can I assist you?" I briefly, but comprehensively, explained my devastating situation, leaving out no detail of Sarah's systematic betrayal, her calculated deceit, and the insidious public narrative she had so maliciously crafted. I poured out my story, my humiliation, my anger, my desperate need for justice. Miss Albright listened patiently, her silence punctuated only by the occasional thoughtful hum that conveyed both deep understanding and a simmering professional indignation, an unspoken promise of action. When I finished, the line was quiet for a long moment, stretching between us, thick with the weight of unspoken emotion. Then Ms. Albright's voice, now imbued with a quiet intensity that was both comforting and formidable, broke the silence. "Mrs. Hayes," she began, her words measured and deliberate, each one hitting home with the force of irrefutable truth, "I believe Arthur, bless his soul, anticipated something precisely like this. He was, as you know, an exceptionally wise and remarkably prescient man, a true visionary in his own quiet way. Years ago, he established a very specific, carefully structured trust, entirely separate from your joint accounts, completely off the books, if you will. It was meticulously designed for your financial security should you ever face a situation where your primary assets became compromised or unjustly targeted, as they so clearly have been. It's not a vast fortune, but it is certainly enough to comfortably cover your living expenses for many years, providing you with stability and peace of mind, and, critically, it provides ample non-repayable funds to pursue robust legal action against anyone who might attempt to exploit you. My heart leaped within my chest, a sudden, powerful surge of overwhelming relief and profound vindication. A secret trust? Arthur, even from beyond the grave, was still protecting me, still looking out for my well-being, still ensuring my dignity. His love, his foresight, transcended death. But Ms. Albright wasn't finished. Her voice took on an even more profound resonance. And, perhaps even more importantly, Mrs. Hayes, Arthur also left me very clear and highly detailed instructions regarding a particular, somewhat unconventional, yet incredibly powerful asset. This asset was to become active only if certain conditions were met. Specifically, if you explicitly decided to reclaim your independence, to fight bravely against any injustice, and, crucially, to expose any wrongdoing done to you, especially if it involved a breach of trust from within the family. He wanted your story to be told, not just for your personal benefit, but as a cautionary tale for society and an undeniable inspiration for others facing similar, heartbreaking challenges. He always admired your quiet strength, your profound resilience, and your remarkable ability to articulate complex truths with elegant simplicity. An active asset? My story to be told? The idea was audacious, almost overwhelming in its scope, yet a profound, undeniable sense of purpose, a powerful calling almost settled over me, eclipsing my despair. This wasn't just about recovering stolen money anymore. It was about reclaiming my entire narrative, restoring my dignity, and publicly dismantling Sarah's carefully constructed edifice of lies, brick by painful brick. This was about transforming my deepest pain into a powerful, undeniable, universally resonant truth. Ms. Albright then, with a knowing smile, revealed the exact nature of this asset. Arthur had secretly acquired a significant minority stake in a well-respected local publishing house, Heritage Voices Press, a niche company renowned for its commitment to deeply personal memoirs, local histories, and stories of quiet, everyday triumphs, and profound human resilience. Arthur, knowing my lifelong passion for writing, my hidden dream of one day telling my own story, and my inherent gift for storytelling, had envisioned this as a unique, personal platform for me. He had even prearranged for a guaranteed publishing contract, contingent only on my willingness to honestly share my experiences, my truths. With the immediate financial security of the trust fund and the formidable legal backing of Ms. Albright's firm, we began to meticulously build our airtight case against Sarah. The growing mountain of meticulously organized bank statements I had painstakingly collected, the irrefutable evidence of forged signatures, and that single, crucial text message, it all came together, forming an ironclad, indisputable narrative of her calculated deceit and callous disregard. But the true masterpiece of our strategy, the unexpected, devastating weapon in my arsenal, was the book itself. Ms. Albright introduced me to Clara Jensen, the compassionate yet fiercely intelligent editor-in-chief at Heritage Voices Press. I began to write, pouring out my heart, my raw pain, my justifiable anger, but also, crucially, my unwavering resilience and steely determination, transforming my agony into art. The process was deeply cathartic, a cleansing fire that transformed my raw, churning emotions into a powerful, compelling, and, ultimately, inspiring narrative. I detailed every excruciating step of Sarah's deception, her carefully crafted lies, her manipulative tactics, and the profound, soul-crushing impact of her actions on my life, on my very sense of self. The book wasn't just a simple recount of events. It was a deeply personal exposé, a searing indictment, a tangible testament to an insidious form of familial betrayal. We meticulously timed the book's release to coincide with the initial court proceedings against Sarah, creating a powerful, synchronized impact. The title was stark, unapologetic, and brutally honest, echoing the pain and the fight, the emptied account, my daughter's betrayal and a mother's fight for justice. The subtitle screamed the unvarnished truth, a defiant declaration, by Marion Hayes, a woman who was called a spender, but was really a survivor. The local and national media, ever ravenous for a dramatic, relatable human interest story, especially one involving family drama and an underdog triumph, picked it up with astonishing speed and veracity. A 75-year-old woman, seemingly helpless and vulnerable, betrayed by her own flesh and blood, fighting back not with anger or violence, but with a meticulously detailed memoir, a weapon of truth? It was irresistible, a narrative goldmine. Local news channels ran heart-wrenching segments, national newspapers featured tearful yet resolute interviews, and online forums, where Sarah had once reigned supreme as a social media darling, now buzzed with fervent discussions, rapidly turning against her, their opinions swayed by the undeniable power of truth. Sarah, who had meticulously cultivated her entire public image through relentless social media posts, incessantly flaunting her entrepreneurial success and her glamorous life, suddenly found herself caught in the harsh, unforgiving glare of public scrutiny. But this time, it was a narrative she could not control, could not spin, could not silence. The carefully curated facade of the successful, benevolent, philanthropic daughter began to crack, then crumble into irreparable pieces under the relentless weight of my honest, raw, and irrefutable account. Her chic boutique, once a symbol of her supposed success and refined taste, became a public monument to her ill-gotten gains, an emblem of her calculated cruelty, a grotesque monument to her avarice. Her dwindling supporters and fawning online followers were swiftly replaced by a growing chorus of public condemnation, their disillusionment palpable, their disgust undeniable. The true climax arrived in the austere, yet strangely liberating, courtroom. Sarah, a pale, visibly shaken shadow of her former arrogant self, slumped beside her increasingly uncomfortable and visibly exasperated lawyer, who seemed to shrink in his chair. Ms. Albright, radiating an aura of calm competence and righteous indignation, armed with an irrefutable mountain of financial evidence and my profoundly compelling narrative, laid out the case with chilling, surgical precision. My book, still fresh off the press, its cover emblazoned with a title that cut to the quick, was formally introduced as a central piece of evidence, not merely as a published work, but as a sworn declaration of the truth. A public document of profound personal and legal significance, a testament to my unwavering integrity. When the judge, a stern but undeniably fair woman, asked Sarah to explain the damning discrepancies in the financial records, her usual arrogance evaporated like morning mist. She stammered, tried desperately to deflect, blamed me for mismanagement and unpredictable spending habits, her voice thin and reedy, but her words lacked any conviction. Her eyes started nervously around the courtroom, and her carefully constructed edifice of lies disintegrated under the intense pressure of truth and public expectation. The community whispers had, by this point, grown into an undeniable roar of public opinion, a collective gasp of outrage, and the moral weight of it pressed down on her, suffocating her defenses, leaving her utterly exposed. Then came Ms. Albright's final, devastating blow, delivered with calm, professional precision. She presented a series of undeniable financial documents proving that Sarah had not only systematically drained my primary accounts, but had also, without my knowledge or consent, brazenly mortgaged my small, cherished vacation cottage. A property Arthur and I had painstakingly paid off decades ago, a precious family heirloom inherited from my own grandmother, a tranquil sanctuary that I had planned to leave to a local nature conservancy, a testament to our family's connection to the land. The significant mortgage funds, it turned out, had vanished directly into her failing boutique venture, a desperate, last-ditch attempt to prop up a failing enterprise with stolen collateral, a final act of desecration. This was beyond mere financial theft. It was a profound violation of a sacred trust, a callous destruction of a cherished family legacy, a desecration of my personal history, a robbery of my past and future. The sheer scale and audaciousness of her deception left the entire courtroom in stunned, horrified silence, a collective intake of breath. The judge's ruling was swift, unequivocal, and uncompromising. Sarah was ordered to repay every single penny, with compound interest, every dollar accounted for, and the fraudulent mortgage on the cottage was to be immediately nullified and removed from the property's title, restoring my rightful ownership. Furthermore, given the egregious nature of the financial elder abuse and the profound breach of trust, she faced substantial punitive damages, a sum designed to punish and deter. And a concurrent criminal investigation was officially launched by the state prosecutor's office, ensuring that justice would extend beyond the civil court. The retribution, profound and undeniable, wasn't physical violence or overt revenge. It was financial ruin, legal condemnation, and perhaps most devastatingly for Sarah, who craved public adoration, social ostracization. Sarah, who had lived her entire life for public validation and social climbing, was now publicly shamed, her carefully constructed reputation in absolute tatters, her chic boutique a widely recognized monument to her greed, an emblem of her colossal moral failure and ultimate downfall. As I left the courtroom, the camera flashes were blinding, a relentless barrage of light, but this time, they weren't about my shame or my victimhood. They were about my triumph, my resilience, my unexpected victory, a celebration of truth. People in the courthouse hallway applauded, a spontaneous outburst of support. Some even wept openly, their tears mirroring my own quiet welling of emotion, and complete strangers reached out to shake my hand, their eyes filled with respect and a shared understanding, many whispering their own stories of quiet suffering and newfound hope. My story, laid bare in the pages of my book and amplified by the relentless gaze of the media, had resonated deeply, far beyond my small community. My money was eventually returned, every single cent accounted for, and the cottage, my cherished sanctuary, was unequivocally saved, its future secured. But the greatest victory, the most profound triumph, wasn't merely the financial recovery, it was the unequivocal reclamation of my good name, my dignity, my peace of mind, and my very sense of self. The book, The Emptied Account, became an unexpected national bestseller, inspiring countless others, not just locally, but across the country, raising critical awareness about the insidious prevalence of elder abuse and financial exploitation, giving a voice to the voiceless. I used a significant portion of the book's unexpected proceeds to establish a foundation, aptly named the Arthur Hayes Legacy Fund, dedicated to providing crucial legal aid, counseling, and unwavering support for other seniors fighting financial exploitation, ensuring that Arthur's foresight and his unwavering belief in justice would continue to do immense good in the world, long after his passing. Sarah, stripped of her ill-gotten gains, facing the full weight of the law, and utterly crushed by public scorn, eventually disappeared from the local scene entirely, vanishing into obscurity. I never heard directly from her again, nor did I seek to. The bond, once so vital, so precious, was irrevocably broken, replaced by a quiet, resolute detachment, a painful but necessary severance. I, Marion Hayes, a 75-year-old woman who was left with nothing and maliciously called a spendthrift, had not only secured my financial future, but had also firmly established my lasting legacy, become a powerful voice for the vulnerable, and proven, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that wisdom, resilience, unwavering truth, and a stubborn refusal to be a victim can indeed triumph over even the most profound, the most heartbreaking, familial betrayal. My story became a powerful testament to the often underestimated strength of elders, reminding everyone that while age may bring its unique challenges, it also bestows upon us a unique blend of profound wisdom, invaluable life experience, and an unyielding spirit that, once ignited by injustice, can move mountains, shatter the most cunning deceptions, and ultimately reclaim truth, dignity, and justice for all. My final act was not one of bitter revenge, but of quiet empowerment, a profound testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit, a beacon of hope for all who might face similar darkness, a living legacy that Arthur would have been truly proud of.